I understand traditional companies have a wealth of inherent strengths, and the key is to leverage these strengths in ways that tech giants find difficult to replicate.
In the sense that the more data they have, right, the more likely they can offer better services, right, and develop better algorithms to do that. And the better services or better products they provide, then these product services will attract more customers and more usages. As a result, they're gonna have more data, right? Yeah. So the reason we use this word frenemy is because it has two components, right?
Yeah.
One is you are the friend of these tech giants, but also at the same time you are competing against them, right?
Yeah.
And like the whole kind of a book, right? Is also trying to provide some hope in the sense that even though these tech giants are very powerful, right? Traditional businesses, right? After embracing the new mindset, right? After having the right talent, right? And after choosing the right path, right? They could actually compete very effectively.
皆様こんにちは。私は経営研究所と国への CEO を務めております山口です。NTT データのエグゼクティブアドバイザーも兼任しています。私はデジタルトランスフォーメーションやデジタルイノベーションを専門としています。その中で特に既存企業のデジタル変革が大変重要と考えており、今回既存企業はデジタル企業にどのように勝つかについて書かれているスマートライバルズに大変関心を持ち、著者のフォン・ズー教授にインタビューさせていただくこととなりました。この書籍では、既存企業がデジタル企業に勝つためには、まず自社の強みを再定義し、最大限に活用することが重要であると述べられています。具体的な戦略に必要な観点として、顧客の課題を起点にすること、プラットフォームへ展開すること、エコシステムを構築すること、競合との協調を検討すること、そして既存企業がディスラプターに敗れた経験から学び、将来に向けて対策を打つことを挙げています。今年4月にもハーバードビジネススクールのフォン・ズーさんを訪問し、直接対話させていただきましたが、今回のインタビューでは、既存企業がどのようにデジタル企業に勝っていくかについて、より具体的に理解したいと思います。フォン・ズー教授はハーバードビジネススクールの経営学の教授であり、テクノロジーと戦略が密接に関連する分野における課題の権威です。フォン・ズー教授の研究は学問的な考えだけでなく、実際のビジネス戦略にも大きな影響を与えています。アリババ、バイトダンス、フェイスブック、マイクロソフト、ウーバーなど、名だたる企業にコンサルティングサービスを提供し、技術を活用して競争優位を達成する方法を確立されてきました。今日はその広範な研究と実践的な経験からの洞察を共有していただき、日本の企業が急速に進化するデジタル環境の中で、どのように競争力を維持し、結果を出すことができるかを理解できればと思っています。本通さん、could you start by introducing yourself to our Japanese audience and sharing a bit about your journey?
Thank you so much. It's really a great pleasure, Yamaguchi-san. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about my journey and also talk about this book. Right. My name is Feng Zhu, and I'm a faculty member in the unit called Technology Operations Management at Harvard Business School. I have been at Harvard for 11 years. And over the last couple of decades, I've been doing most of my research around the platform competition, digital transformation, and digital innovation. And during this journey, I've interacted with many big tech companies, including like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, etc., as well as many companies in traditional industries. And these interactions motivated me to write this book, talking about how traditional companies can survive and also thrive in the digital age.
Thank you, Honzu-san.
Thank you.
Thank you. In this section, I would like to go over the essence of Honzu-san's new book, Smart Rivals. In the book, there are 6 key takeaways that the traditional company found should focus on: leverage unique strengths, drive customer centricity, develop platform and ecosystem, collaborate with frenemies, and adapt to disruption. Honzu-san, could you provide an overview of these points and briefly share your perspectives?
Thank you so much. So the book looks at how businesses today can thrive in their battles against tech giants. And our findings suggest that successful companies often carve out their own unique paths for growth, creating highly differentiated products or services that tech giants find difficult to imitate or replicate. So in other words, in the digital age, companies not only need to play hard, but also need to play smart against their tech rivals. So we refer to these innovative companies, smart rivals, in our book. So as Yamaguchi-san already mentioned, so in this book, we identified 6 common strategies that smart rivals use to differentiate themselves and compete effectively.
Thank you very much, Honzu-san, for these valuable insights. Now that we have a clear understanding of these key takeaways, I would like us to explore each of these topics in more detail to see how we can apply them effectively within our own business context. Here, I would like to discuss ways to amplify the company's strengths. Could you please share with us your perspective on the core concept of Chapter 1, and maybe touch on some of the key case studies?
My pleasure. Yeah, so Chapter 1 talks about basically the direction of innovation for traditional businesses. Now, many businesses in traditional industries have been around for a long time before the emergence of these tech giants. They have actually already developed very strong core competency and competitive advantages in their prospective industries. So it's actually important in the tech, in the tech world, that these businesses relentlessly leverage new technologies, new business models to amplify their existing advantages, to make themselves more defensible. So in Chapter 1, we use this kind of an interesting company called Domino's Pizza to illustrate this concept. Now, Domino's Pizza, operates in a very traditional restaurant, fast food restaurant. And Domino's historically has been known as a delivery expert. And in the digital age, Domino's realized that regardless where you are in the digital age or the AI age or the age of quantum computing, pizza needs to be delivered. So Domino's, leverage all kinds of technologies to basically enhance its competitive advantage in the delivery space. And the outcome was actually shocking in the sense that I did some quick kind of a computation and discovered that if at the beginning of 2010, say, you invested $1 in Domino's stock, today you can get almost $50 back from your investment. Versus if you invested in Amazon, you are likely to get around $27 back. Investing in Google, you are going to get around $10 back. In Apple, about $30 back. So Domino's actually, in the last 14 years, has actually outperformed all these tech giants. And the reason for this success is this focus. They decided to use all kinds of digital technologies to amplify their strengths in order fulfillment and delivery, while keeping the pizza quality at a reasonable level. So for instance, right, Domino's in 2007 introduced this toolkit called the pizza tracker. So the idea is that once you place the order online or by phone, you can go to this website, and the website will tell you exactly where your pizza is. And after learning lots of customers, right, and found that ordering pizza takes too long for them, Domino's invented this tool called the zero-click ordering. The idea is also very simple. Once you open up this app, zero-click ordering app, within 10 seconds, if you don't stop that clock in the middle, the countdown clock, and your favorite pizza will be on its way. And Domino's later on even started to collaborate with startups to do self-driving pizza delivery. It has been implemented in Houston. So today, if you are in Houston in the US, if you order Domino's pizza, you might be able to actually get the pizza from a driverless robot. And last year, Domino's started to partner with Microsoft, leveraging generative AI to improve its order fulfillment and the delivery process. And in the middle of this year, Domino's actually announced, now with all the AI competency, it could start preparing your pizza even before you order them. So this is really a story of how a traditional business could innovate and also outperform all the tech giants through amplifying its core competency, through amplifying its core competitive advantage.
Thank you. I understand traditional companies have a wealth of inherent strengths, and the key is to leverage these strengths in ways that tech giants find difficult to replicate. However, the existing strengths of traditional companies may not always translate effectively in the digital era. What was once a competitive advantage might not hold the same. We need to reassess and redefine these strengths through a digital lens. First is the customer value proposition. Companies need to define their target customers and truly understand what value they bring. This means focusing on the customer base, the brand relationship, and the quality of product and services. Traditional companies excel at building trust and long-term relationships. And this is something that can be strengthened through digital means to further increase customer loyalty and willingness to pay. Secondly, there is a value chain perspective. We can examine each part of our value chain, from sourcing and production to sales and distribution. The goal is to assess how digital tools can be used to enhance the capability we already have. The focus is on using digital technology to enhance areas where we already have strong capabilities. After identifying our unique capabilities, it's critical that we effectively leverage digital enablers to unlock new possibilities for growth. Here, we are talking about enhancing both the customer experience and the value chain. On the customer side, digital enablers like personalization, linkage, and ubiquitous access allow us to address the true issues our customers face and tailor solutions more effectively. This customer-centric approach is what allows us to transition from providing product to providing broader customer value. On the value chain side, digital enablers like automation, which blend human judgment with automated process, and talent augmentation help us make our operations more efficient while addressing specific business challenges like uncertainty reduction. By using our foundational strengths in sales, production, and delivery, combined with emerging digital capabilities, we can redefine the value chain and create something that is far more holistic and responds to customer needs. Now, let's move to our next discussion, how to win the games. To start, it's crucial for companies to be customer-centric, which means putting the customer at the forefront of every decision we make. 本津さん、could you walk us through customer-centric in more details, as well as any real-world case studies that illustrate the impact of customer-centric strategies effectively in smart rivals? Please.
When we think about the customer centricity, right, we could think about two different dimensions, right? One is personalization, right? With data, with new tech digital channels, right? We can get very personalized services. And the second thing is how do you actually leverage data, leverage customer insights to rapidly improve your product, right? To satisfy your customers better. And the third dimension about customer centricity in the digital age is about simplifying your customer journey, right? Previously, if you apply for a loan, right, it might take multiple steps, right? Today, many of the fintech companies made this process a lot simpler, right? So just by clicking a few buttons, you might get a small loan. And the fourth thing is about discovering really customers' real needs and how you could satisfy them better. Now, in the digital age, there is a common perception that all these tech giants are extremely good at doing this, right? And typically, when we think about their competitive advantages, we think about the data flywheel, in the sense that the more data they have, right, the more likely they can offer better services, right, and develop better algorithms to do that. And the better services or better products they provide, then these product services will attract more customers and more usages. As a result, they're going to have more data, right? So many traditional businesses feel like they are actually really left behind in this race, right, to become customer-centric, even though they all understand it's actually super, super important to be very customer-centric. So what our book suggests is that they should kind of avoid being addicted to this mindset. They should actively leverage their own channels, right? Their own touch points with customers, right? And then generate new insights through these own channels and also through these own touch points. One example we offer in the book is this leading retailer of women's footwear store called Belly. And this company put RFID devices in each pair of the shoes in the store, so that every time, right, a pair of shoes is picked up, the company would know that. And then the company did some very simple analysis, essentially the number of times customers picked up this pair of shoes, and compared to the number of times customer actually bought this pair of shoes, and computed these conversion rates. And it discovered that for some pair of shoes, the conversion rate was surprisingly low. Now you have the customers in the store, right? You could quickly do a customer interview, try to figure out what's really going on. And sometimes the problem was very simple. Basically, sometimes the shoe lace, the lace was just a little bit too long, so customers didn't want this pair of shoes. So the company, after obtaining these insights, quickly went back to the manufacturer and improved the product design. So this allowed the company to continuously drive basically product improvement through data collection in the store. And this is not something Amazon can do easily because Amazon is mostly selling products through its website. And we also talk about examples like Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola, as you know, as a brand, right, doesn't really have like lots of direct interactions with customers because Coca-Cola deals with distributors and the retailers mostly. However, the company has identified an important channel to connect with the customers. Basically, it's soda fountains. Right? So in 2017, and Coca-Cola analyzed lots of kind of real-time data gathered through these soda fountains, right? And discovered that, consumers actually are trying to like mix like different flavors in certain particular ways, right? And armed with this kind of insights, Coca-Cola actually introduced this flavor called Cherry Sprite, right? So it became basically a new permanent flavor. Now, this was through basically insights, right, informed by consumers' behavior. Right. So, like in terms of kind of a shortening customer journey, I already talked about another example about Domino's, right? In the sense that, Domino's zero-click ordering app really shortened the customer journey significantly so that you don't have to like tell Domino what kinds of ingredients you need, what kinds of like basically complementary kind of products you need, such as salad, chicken wings, right, to go with the pizza, right? And yeah, as soon as you open up this app, right, within 10 seconds, your favorite pizza will be on its way.
Thank you. In addition to Fonzu-san's point, I'd like to focus on one of the fundamental elements for success and identify the true issues of customers. When we think about customer value, it's essential to look beyond just the product or service. We need to consider what the customer true objective is. Often, their goal isn't simply to buy a product, but to solve underlying problem. For example, if we consider a customer purchasing insurance, they are not just looking for a contract. They are seeking safety and reliability when they are on the road. The key here is to identify the true issues customers face throughout each phase, whether it's during the use or following phases. By extracting these core needs, we can redefine customer value in a way that directly addresses their concerns and enhances their overall experience. If we struggle to pinpoint the true issue in a specific moment, it's important to broaden our view. In today's dynamic environment, it's not enough to simply focus on the quality or cost of existing product. To effectively compete, traditional companies need to understand the true issues that customers face throughout their entire journey, and to effectively capture customer data that helps solve these issues. We see new competitors emerging from different industries. Companies that leverage digital solutions to address customer problems holistically. They don't just offer a product. They are creating connected ecosystems that deliver digital-based services combined with tangible product. This allows them to provide a complete solution, meeting customer needs in ways that extend beyond what a traditional value chain can deliver. To establish a competitive advantage, it's crucial for us to develop our own ecosystem approach, one that covers the customer journey comprehensively, not just focusing on product sales or production. Collaborating with complementary service providers and focusing on capturing meaningful customer data are key parts of this strategy. Next, we want to move on to talk about finding platform opportunities. Before we discuss platform and ecosystem, we'd like to explore the distinct business models of pipeline and consumption ecosystems, B2C platforms. Each model presents unique strategies and economic impact, which are crucial in understanding the evolution of business structures in the digital era. Starting with the pipeline model, it's characterized by linear transactions from producers to consumers, primarily focusing on economies of scale on the supply side. This traditional model has been the backbone of many industries, optimizing internal processes. As business evolves and data becomes more integral, we see a shift toward consumption ecosystem. This model leverages big data to create new customer value by API. Companies collaborate, pooling their resources to offer enhanced customer experience that no single entity could provide alone. However, transitioning from a consumption ecosystem to a platform model is challenging. The B2C platform model, including companies like Uber and Airbnb, operates on two-sided network effects and disrupt the traditional business models. Here, the platform doesn't own the resources, but facilitates connections between users and service providers. First, there is the issue of cost versus benefit. Can pipeline companies generate enough benefit to justify the cost of moving to a platform model? So, will you share your idea, please?
Very happy to. Thank you so much, Yamaguchi-san, for clearly explaining, right, how the platform business model is different from the pipeline business model, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, right? So the reason, as you mentioned, Uber is a platform, right, is because Uber serves two distinct group of customers, right? Essentially, one group is the riders, another group is the drivers, right? And because of the existence of Uber, the riders and the drivers they can interact directly, right? And if you look at the digital giants today, many of them actually, when they first got started, were not platforms, right? And they really benefited from the transition from the product to platform transformation, right? And if you look at Apple, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Many of us probably still remember when the first iPhone was released, there was no app store, right? Steve Jobs wanted to keep Apple as Apple's iPhone as a closed system.
Yeah.
Only the second version of iPhone, because of the persuasion from his colleagues, Jobs decided to open it up And so Apple had the iOS App Store, right? And since then, right, iPhone has been doing like extremely well. Similarly, if you look at Amazon, Amazon started as a retailer, right? Essentially buying products and resell through like basically its website, right? And a few years later, Amazon started to enable the platform business model, right? Launching the marketplace so that third-party sellers can actually join the marketplace and sell these products directly to Amazon customers. And today, actually, more than 50% of the products sold on Amazon are actually supplied by third-party sellers. So Amazon also benefited tremendously from like this platform business model. I mean, similarly, when Google was first launched, it's just a website with some search functionalities. And only later, Google discovered, you could become a platform, right? So that you could actually attract advertisers and match all these advertisers based on the search queries users use, right? And this actually made Google so successful today. Right? So even these tech giants, right, and had to go through this product to platform transformation. And as a result, many traditional companies today can also benefit a lot from such transformation.
Okay, thank you. I understand the advantage of traditional company transform to platformer. So thank you. That is a good point. Secondly, there is a challenge of competitive collaboration. Companies might hesitate to join a platform because they fear exposing sensitive transaction information or data to their competitors. A good example of this is how Alipay restricted access from Baidu to protect its data. These dynamics raise fundamental questions about the feasibility and strategic planning necessary for traditional companies aiming to transform into platform-based business. 本庄さん、would you like to share your thoughts and how do you define a platform in today's business context?
Thank you. And this is actually an excellent question, right? In the sense that, when we look at the platforms, sometimes, these platforms don't even have to be digital, right? Traditional businesses, right, can build platforms through their kind of offline businesses as well, right? And the key, right, to leverage, to enable a smooth transition from this platform product to platform model is to embrace this open mindset, right? And also constantly discover what is, right, the customer need you are kind of trying to address, you are trying to fulfill through the platform business model. So let me give you an example, right? So Powell's Books, right, which is a bookstore in Oregon in the US. When you think about bookstores today, right, they are really struggling, right? I bet like most of the readers who bought my book would be through some online channels, right? They just go to the website, and if you want to kind of preview some of the chapters, right? You could actually read a few pages of the book, right, online too, right? So this actually really reduced basically the need for people to go into the store and buy the book. But Powell's bookstore really figured out that, you know what, in the digital age, right, customers are visiting the stores not just because they want to buy the book. They also want to kind of get connected with other readers, right? And they sometimes want to connect with the authors. So they really care about this community. So as a result, Powell's bookstore, right, and decided to host lots of author events over the years, right? So they host over like 500 author events each year. Basically, like if you think about it, on a typical day, right, you would actually have multiple author events, right? Bring the readers together to basically meet and learn from their favorite authors. And this also kind of allow all these readers to connect over this shared interest, right, in the same topic, in the same author, right? And it also kept the bookstore really late into the night, right? So readers, right, who want to find a place, right, to read quietly, right, or maybe have some conversation with other kind of readers, right, they could go to the store and really kind of enjoy the kind of basically the experience in the bookstore. So this approach, right, really made Powell's bookstore, right, and like a very successful today, despite the competition from companies like Amazon or like this kind of like e-commerce companies. And because what you are getting is a very differentiated services, right? A very differentiated product, right? And compared with the very transactional kind of experience on these online platforms. And the Powell's, right, by doing all this, right, essentially is becoming a platform, right, connecting readers to other readers, connecting readers to authors, right? So you are actually playing an intermediary role, right? Creating value and also capture value from being a platform in the offline space. As another example, probably a more digital example, right? Think about the banking industry. And the banking industry is facing some challenges today because we have so many kind of fintech companies, right? Such as PayPal, Apple Pay, like Venmo, right? I mean, they are all kind of growing very rapidly. So how do you actually kind of compete effectively, right? So in this case, many banks decided to kind of basically collaborate. They say that, okay, this actually requires some collaboration. We need to be able to kind of compete against other banks, but at the same time, we need to find the common ground, right? So that we could actually co-create value together, right? So banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, right? Other banks started basically to kind of do a joint venture together to create this product called Zelle, right? Which is also a payment app. And later on, many other banks also joined, right, to support the Zelle platform. So today, actually, right, so lots of my friends, actually, including myself, actually use Zelle also very regularly, right, to enable payments and enable transactions with friends or other sellers. So the idea here is that you really have to kind of have this open mindset, right? And also be willing to kind of open yourself up even to your competitors, right? And then you could actually effectively identify these platform opportunities.
Okay. Oh, thank you for sharing good cases. And but for traditional companies, the transition to a platform-based model can be complex. What do you think should be the key considerations for these companies as they attempt to turn their existing business into platforms? For instance, G's platform initiative faced setbacks. So,
Absolutely.
will you share your opinion?
Totally, right? So, I mean, GE also wanted to launch the Predix platform, right? In the end, like Zelle, right? And the platform didn't attract lots of third parties, especially GE's competitors, to support the platform, right? And the part of the reason is that GE needs to basically think about how to co-create value in the right way, right? In the case of Zelle, right? And in order to mitigate the concern that, oh, okay, third parties are coming to my platform, they're contributing data to me, right? And the banks decide to say that, okay, we're going to kind of do a joint venture. So every one of us would have some stake, right, in this new venture, right? And some ownership in this new venture to kind of enable broader participation, right? And so this is basically saying that as companies are thinking about this product platform journey, right? They really need to think about the willingness to participate of all these third parties they're trying to attract and figure out a way so that these third parties will be willing to participate. Telepass, right?
Yeah.
And the telepath story is also an exciting story where a very traditional business started to grow platforms, right? So telepath is a company providing electric toll collection system in Europe.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that it provides a device you can mount, right, on your vehicle's dashboard.
Right.
So when you drive through the toll plaza, you don't have to pay, right? So the amount will be automatically, or you don't have to stop. The amount will be automatically deducted. Very simple model.
Yeah.
In the digital age, it started to look at the value of the data it has, and suddenly discover that, even though this data is not going to be that valuable to myself, this data could actually be very useful for insurance companies. Because from this data, I know, for instance, at what point in time the driver passes through the first toll plaza, and how long it takes for the driver to pass through the second toll plaza. And I also know the distance between these two toll plazas. Now, with distance and also the amount of time, I can compute the speed of the driver. If I have repeated observation about a particular driver, I will be able to tell whether that driver is a safe driver or a risky driver.
Yeah.
That information is useless to telepath as a toll collection company, but can be very useful for insurance company. So telepath has to essentially have to figure out a way, right, to leverage these insights, right, and also to work with insurance companies to offer attractive, basically, policies to the telepath toll collection system users. Right. So this actually also involves lots of new capabilities, right? You have to basically be able to do data analytics. You need to be able to understand how the insurance industry works, right? You need to get the users to opt in, so to allow you to use the data, right? To make sure that you respect all the user privacies, right? So there are lots of new capabilities you have to gain, but at least that's an interesting direction where traditional companies, right, could actually leverage a platform to expand the scope of its business into new territories.
Thank you. And I know NT Data EMEA contributed to building this system.
Wow,
Yes.
that's such a coincidence.
Thank you. Next, thanks, Honzu-san, for exploring platform opportunities with us. Now, let me briefly discuss what makes a successful platformer. Customers benefit from network effects that enable customers to access a wider range of products on a single platform. They will also be able to reduce transaction costs such as search and payment processes. Similarly, suppliers benefit from a larger customer base and lower transaction costs. However, there are concerns. Customers worry about data security, while suppliers face the risk of platformers gaining access to their customer information. Suppliers also face dependency risks, as platformers may potentially gain control over their business. Following the 2 points we have mentioned, growing one's own ecosystem also helps the company to have a higher chance to win. Honzu-san, could you share your definition of an ecosystem and what it means for companies today?
Of course. So an ecosystem, as we define in the book, is a concept describing a network of interconnected businesses, right? Or organizations or individuals that co-create and exchange value. Right? So an ecosystem can sometimes, right, encompass a platform company, but it actually is a broader concept in the sense that it incorporates many other players, right? Many other elements, such as suppliers, distributors, customers, even regulators, right? Competitors. Right? So in the book, we talk about a number of examples to illustrate how companies leverage ecosystems to kind of grow, right, its business, right? So one example we use is this ultra fast fashion brand called Shein. So if you look at Shein's ecosystem, it involves many participants, right? So for instance, Shein needs to leverage many clothing manufacturers in China, right? And operates basically a digital supply chain, right? To efficiently assign orders, right, to these suppliers. And besides all these kind of clothing manufacturers, right, Shein's ecosystem also has customers, like consumers, right, and in Europe, in the United States, and around the world, right. And Shein also leverages lots of cross-border, right, logistics companies, right, because the products need to be shipped cross borders. Right? And even though many people perceive Shein as basically a competitor to Amazon, but Shein also actually sells on Amazon, right? Essentially making Amazon as basically a member of its ecosystem. And Shein also leverages social media such as TikTok, right? And to basically promote its products, to promote its brand. So as you could see, right, the reason Shein today is so successful is not because just Shein did everything by itself. It's really because Shein managed to leverage its whole ecosystem, right, and to grow together, right, to co-create value together. And similarly, right, I mean, I wrote a case very recently talking about Amazon third-party marketplace seller called Anchor Innovation, right? And this company was founded in the 2011, right? And by a few ex-Googlers, right? And all this company is doing on Amazon was basically selling computer or mobile accessories such as the charging cable, power bank, right? And this company, by the way, also sells in Japan, right? And Amazon's marketplace is a very competitive place, right? I mean, not only Apple, Samsung, all these big brands are selling similar items. Apple is also selling cables, right? For instance, Amazon itself is also selling lots of private label, in these categories. But somehow Anchor, right, has constantly, right, been doing extremely well, constantly being ranked #1, right, in some of these categories. Part of the reason Anchor was very successful was that it actually really leveraged Amazon reviews as input to its product development process. Right? So they actually read and analyze Amazon reviews extremely carefully, including reviews about its own products and as well as reviews of competitors' products. So once Anchor had lots of success on Amazon, Anchor also kind of went beyond Amazon, because once you have very good review, had lots of customers, it's actually very easy to persuade other giants to work with you. Right? So today, Anchor products are sold in Walmart, in Costco, right, in Best Buy, in Target, right, even Apple's offline store, the Apple Store, carries Anchor products next to Apple products, right? So if you look at Anchor strategy, right, it really started by considering Amazon as a participant in its ecosystem, right? Then gradually basically expanded its ecosystem to include many other giants, such as Apple, such as Costco. Right? Now, many small companies, when they participate on Amazon, tend to think that, okay, I'm a participant in Amazon's ecosystem. But it's actually very important to change that mindset, and think about the opposite way, in the sense that you should be thinking that now Amazon as a participant in my ecosystem, how do I best leverage this ecosystem partner to allow me to grow better? And Anchor, because of this mindset change, right, successfully kind of grow its business and beyond the U.S. market. Yeah, and today, the company also went IPO, and it's valued like around $6 billion now.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm particularly interested in how transnational companies can develop effective ecosystem strategies. What approaches are likely to work, and what challenges might they face?
Thank you. And this is also an excellent question. And so in the book, we highlight several strategies and also common mistakes, right? Companies make when they grow their ecosystems, right? So the first mistake I already described is that you really have to kind of flip the perspective, right? So in your ecosystem, right, these tech giants are included in them, right? So I mean, these tech giants are players in your ecosystem. Right? The second thing is that many companies, when they think about ecosystems, there is kind of basically like a wish, right? They could become the hub of these ecosystems. But just like the Anchor example illustrates, you actually do not have to actually occupy the hub position, right, to become the ecosystem. You don't have to be like Apple, right? So everyone surrounds you need to build on your technologies, right? And they cannot leave, right, from your ecosystem. Versus in the case of Anchor, right? I mean, lots of players can actually choose to come and leave, right? And but without being the hub, Anchor, right, could actually took a lot less risk, right, to grow its ecosystem compared with like basically companies trying to basically become the hub, right, within an ecosystem. Now, like another principle we talked about like kind of in the book is that in order to grow like basically an ecosystem, right, your core needs to be defensible. Right? In the case of Anchor, right, the reason like it can attract all this kind of ecosystem participant is basically it's the quality of the product is really good, right? And we talk about the example about the Nike. For instance, like for a while, Nike wanted to leverage this wristband, right, for fitness tracking, and essentially this hardware, right, and leverage that and to become the hub of a new ecosystem. And very quickly, Nike discovered that it doesn't have competitive advantage in making the hardware devices compared to like these competitors like Apple, for instance, right, or other kind of a Fitbit kind of like a wristband like developers. So Nike quickly decided to say, okay, instead of competing against Apple, we should actually leverage iOS, Apple's ecosystem, right, to grow. So Nike decided to basically abandon the kind of the basically hardware business to focus on developing software on top of iOS, right? And today Nike is actually doing extremely well, right, in the fitness space. Right? So this basically is a story we use to illustrate that. Well, I mean, right? I mean, if you really want to become a hub, right, you need to be able to defend the core, right? And if you cannot defend the core, you have to find other ways, right, to grow your ecosystem. In the book, we also talked about like another key challenge for the businesses to manage an ecosystem, right? Sometimes you leverage ecosystem partners to kind of co-innovate, right? Like we use the example of Korean telecom, KT, to illustrate this point. KT wanted to become essentially a pioneer, right, and driving the adoption of 5G technology, right, several years ago. But in order for 5G, right, to become extremely popular, widely adopted, it's not just like the telecom needs to innovate and kind of basically do all the R&D around the 5G technologies. You also need 5G handset devices, right? I mean, Samsung needs to be able to make attractive, right, basically cell phones, right, or smartphones for people to adopt 5G. You also need like a killer apps, right? Leveraging 5G technologies to drive adoption of the kind of 5G services, right? So you actually like in order for 5G to become extremely popular, you need like a multiple things, right, to happen, right? And so it actually, in the end, right, I mean, require lots of coordination effort to make sure that the company can actually minimize these co-innovation risks, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that what if there are no killer app? What if the handset is not ready, but like your R&D is good enough, right? So as a result, right, when companies think about like co-innovating with ecosystem partners, it's actually extremely important to evaluate the co-innovation risks, right? So if the probability of having the handset, having a very good 500 handset, right, in a short period of time is only 70%, and the probability of having a killer app is 70%. Like your success, right, is going to be essentially a multiplication of these two probabilities. Now you only have like a 49% success rate, right? And this is excluding your own risk, essentially, right? Doing all this R&D. If you factor that in, the chance to achieve the success is even lower, right? So having a very realistic view about your success, right, when you leverage ecosystems to innovate is super, super important.
Thank you. Your insight really helps us understand how traditional companies can evolve. Thank you. I would like to explore the condition for building a successful ecosystem, a concept you have often spoken about. Recently, the ecosystems can be built at low cost by utilizing digital enablers such as APIs. Inspired by your framework on constructing consumption ecosystems, we have considered why ecosystems need to be built. It ultimately comes down to delivering maximum value to customers. When an ecosystem provides more value, it increases the customer's willingness to pay and gain a competitive edge. This value can come out not just from the main product, but also from the synergy created by complementary providers that enhance the overall experience. On this slide, we see how an ecosystem approach creates significantly more value compared to an independent approach by leveraging contributions from multiple players. It's these synergies that allow for better integration, improved customer outcomes, and overall competitive strengths. The leadership position is typically held by the player that contribute the most value to the ecosystem. In other words, the company that provides essential services and has access to critical data for delivering customer value tends to become the leader. However, as we see advancement in technology, the dynamics can shift. For example, a grocery store may start as a leader, but as the technology transforms, a grocery delivery operator like Instacart may take over because they offer new critical points of customer value, such as more convenient delivery. The slide shows how changes in technology can alter the value of contributions and cost structures, thus redefining who leads the ecosystem. The player that delivers the greatest value contribution under new conditions often becomes a new leader. Next, let's move on to the topic of managing frenemies. It's a strategy that's becoming increasingly important for traditional companies navigating the digital landscape. For traditional companies, utilizing platforms to enter new markets or launch new divisions can be beneficial, but managing these partnerships effectively is difficult. As we know, the player that provides the most value and captures essential customer data often emerge as a result of the ecosystem. If companies like Best Buy fail to offer sufficient value, they risk becoming followers of dominant platforms like Amazon. This emphasizes the need for traditional firms to maintain control over customer data. I would like to ask you, Ponzu-san, why is it important for traditional companies to have frenemies? What are specific benefits? Please.
Thank you. And so digital companies are becoming increasingly influential, right? And these tech giants are become essentially gatekeepers or providing channels, right, to kind of reach customers. Right? So even though like many of the traditional companies are are not kind of developing their own platforms to compete, but many of them may find that collaborating with these tech giants can be beneficial, right? For instance, because they provide access to the customers, right? And also they provide a lot of kind of assistance during the process. For instance, like many third-party kind of sellers find that Amazon's fulfillment services is extremely convenient. Right. Basically, you don't have to own a warehouse yourself, right? So you could just ship your products to Amazon's warehouse. Amazon will take care of, for instance, distribution, and Amazon will take care of all the return, all these hassles for you. Right? So it's really convenient for kind of traditional businesses to operate right on these platforms, and at the same time, like many of these digital platforms also provide a lot of toolkits. Like for instance, like today, like on Amazon, Amazon provides all kinds of AI-based tools, right, for you to basically optimize your marketing strategies and for you to figure out how to improve your products further, right? For you to do all this targeting, right? So, I mean, you actually find that these toolkits are highly effective because Amazon's actually very good at developing these toolkits, right? Now, so as a result, right, I mean, many companies, it's not surprising that many companies today actually are collaborating, right, are co-creating value with these digital giants.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I think collaborating with platformers will be effective for companies that want to expand their market globally, but lack distribution channels. However, when companies collaborate with platformers, after succeeding in their business, they will face issues such as having their customer information obtained by platformers or becoming platformer dependent. When we think about frenemy, we should adapt the concept more flexibly, not interpreting in a fixed way. And finally, what are the best strategies to manage risks when collaborating with frenemies?
Yeah. So the reason we use this word frenemy is because it has two components, right? One is you are the friend of these tech giants, but also at the same time you are competing against them, right? So companies, while you are actually seeing all the benefits from collaborating with these tech giants, you have to also keep this in mind in the sense that it's actually a risky collaboration, right? So you need to develop your defense mechanisms, right? So in the book, we talked about multiple strategies, right? Companies can actually defend themselves better, right? For instance, right, some companies would go into the extreme and saying that I want to decouple with these tech giants because, I mean, they own too much, right? They own my customer, they own my data. That's not good, right? For instance, one example would be Nike, for instance, right? Nike actually doesn't sell directly to Amazon, and Nike wanted to use its own channel to sell. But I mean, like very few companies can kind of do the same thing as Nike, right? And many companies actually also find creative ways to work with these tech giants. For instance, like last year, Domino's, right? After many years of refusing to work with food delivery companies, announced that it's going to actually partner with Uber Eats, right? So Uber Eats, on Uber Eats today, you could actually order Domino's pizza. But Domino's, right, designed the contract so that Uber is actually not delivering the pizza. Domino's is actually delivering the pizza. As we discussed, the core competency of Domino's is its delivery capability, right? So by actually strategically kind of doing this contractual arrangement with Uber Eats, Domino's, right, effectively use Uber Eats as a channel to reach more customers without losing its core competency. Similarly, Best Buy also found its way to collaborate with Amazon, right? I mean, even though like for many years, right, Best Buy, right, was struggling because like lots of people walk into Best Buy store, right, tried the products. In the end, they bought from Amazon, right? And Best Buy actually perceived Amazon as a competitor. Over time, Best Buy started to figure out how to compete very effectively. Essentially, Best Buy wanted to really make the store experience so good that customers actually want to walk into the store, right? They actually want to buy the products with Best Buy, within Best Buy stores. And they also kind of figured out that the many brands actually wanted to find a way to showcase their best products in the store to the customers. Right? For many consumer electronics, people actually want to kind of touch these products, right? So Best Buy, right, and actually charge some of these brands a fee for running the showroom in the store, right? That's additional revenue Best Buy generates from running the store business. So Amazon, right, suddenly discovered that because Best Buy is such a good showroom, right, offering such a good offline experience to the customers, Best Buy can actually help Amazon sell many of the TVs Amazon's interested in selling, right? And because Amazon actually has a product line called Fire TV, which Amazon has lots of stake in these products, right? And so Amazon approached Best Buy, and it turns out that this collaboration was actually win-win in the sense that Amazon now has a channel, right, to sell the products, right, for the customers to actually touch or physically evaluate the products. And the Best Buy, right, through this partnership, also strengthened kind of its brand image as the best showroom, right, in the consumer electronics industry. So you can actually figure out all this kind of a strategic arrangement to preserve and also enhance your unique value proposition so that you become even more defensible through this kind of a collaboration with tech giants. So, I mean, we ended this chapter with a popular saying that, you know, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now, right? So as you are thinking about working with these tech giants, right, it's important to start earlier to think about your defense mechanisms.
Thank you. As importantly, companies have to also learn to bounce back from disruption to turn setbacks into comebacks. Honzu-san, could you share your thoughts on how companies can handle disruptions and perhaps talk us through some real-world case studies?
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, regardless how strategic traditional businesses are, right, inevitably, right, because of new technologies, because of new business models, right, and they are being disrupted. So it's actually very important for them to figure out how to actually bounce back from disruption. So let me take a very familiar example, right? So like think about the Kodak and the Fujifilm. These two are actually the most popular film companies in the world before digital technologies emerged. Right? And I mean, when Kodak, right, went bankruptcy in 2012, right? I mean, many people actually believe that, okay, Fuji is going to be the next in line. But if you look at the Fuji stock price, it actually had a very successful turnaround.
Yeah.
And the reason Fuji was able to do this is because Fuji actually carefully evaluated its core competency and realized that its core competency is not just about the filming. Its core competency is about imaging. Right?
Yeah.
And this core competency is not just useful for cameras. It's also very useful in the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
Right? So suppose that you are doing a CT scan or X-ray scan, you would like that image to be as clear as possible, right? So Fuji really leveraged its core competency and expand into this new market and did extremely successful for there, right? So the takeaway here is that the companies, as they kind of face disruption, really need to figure out what kinds of core competitive advantages are still relevant, not necessarily within their current industry, but in other industry, right? And then they could actually compete through their capabilities, not competing within the same market. And in the book, we also talk about kind of other companies, right? For instance, like this Garmin, right? This company called Garmin, which like many people know this brand because Garmin actually manufactures this kind of a GPS navigator for cars. But today, very few people use such GPS navigators, right? They use kind of their smartphone, like kind of iOS or Android phones to navigate, right? Or they have built-in systems in their cars to navigate. So Garmin's first reaction was that I need to build cell phones to compete.
Yeah.
But I mean, even though it tried, it was basically totally a failure because Garmin didn't have the capability to do that. But Garmin realized that, my core competency is not just about its device itself. My core competency is positioning, right? I'm doing GPS positioning. So as a result, right, Garmin decided to leverage its capabilities, right, in a list of new kind of settings, such as sports, right, marine, right, aviation, right, and the fitness devices, right. So all this would require precise positioning, right. And today, actually, this company is doing very well. Right? So like these kind of responses are very consistent with the overall message, right, in the book, in the sense that the companies, right, really need to like be kind of very clear about their core competency, right, core competitive advantage, right, and in the digital age, they should kind of leverage all these opportunities to amplify these existing advantages, not necessarily in the same industry, could be in a very new setting, right? Even Nokia today, right? I mean, you might think that, after Nokia phones failed, Nokia is irrelevant. Nokia today is actually also having another bounce back because Nokia recognized that one of its core capability is in network equipment, right? So it's actually doing lots of network equipment today, is actually having lots of success in that area, right? So Nokia basically gave up on like making like smartphone devices to compete against iOS or Android.
Thank you, Honzu-san, for sharing your thoughts. They are very meaningful to us. Moving on the suggestion, what should be prioritized in executing this strategy, particularly in terms of talent development, and organizational change? Please.
Thank you. And like the whole kind of a book, right, is also trying to provide some hope in the sense that even though these tech giants are very powerful, right, traditional businesses, right, after embracing the new mindset, right, after having the right talent, right, and after choosing the right path, right, they could actually compete very effectively. Right. I mean, like many companies feel like the competition with digital giants, right, is almost like a winner takes all competition, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, like a grocery company, right? I mean, might be thinking that it really needs to embrace digital technologies faster than like these digital giants is trying to figure out how to run the offline grocery business. Right, and in the end, like it's just going to be like one winner, right? Basically taking all the market share, but that's actually far from the truth. In the sense that if you kind of identify a unique path, right, to grow your business and leverage your own capabilities, right, you could be in a position that you could coexist with all these tech giants, and these tech giants actually cannot like kind of basically beat you easily. Right. So this is actually the right kind of innovation strategy. Right. So to some extent, like we found that I mean, even though this kind of a strategy, essentially kind of a crafting your own path, right, requires like some creativity, right, and this is also like something that the traditional businesses have not been doing like in the past, right. But with all the insights from our book, right, and with all the kind of principles offered from our book, like we are hoping that we would make this path, right, feasible for many of the traditional businesses. Right? And in the end, we are hoping that instead of perceiving all these digital technologies, AI, or in the future quantum computing as a threat, right, to your business, these traditional businesses would see them as almost like a blessing in disguise, right? And for smart rivals, right, these new technologies, right, these new business models can open up new opportunities that, I mean, traditional businesses could not have reached without these technologies, right? So just like what we saw with Domino's case, what we saw with Best Buy, right? And so let's all become smart rivals.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for good suggestion. So I could get some clues about what Japanese companies should be focusing on. In general, the foundation of many Japanese firms lies in their manufacturing excellence, where they focus heavily on enhancing product quality and operational excellence. This is reflected in their strong commitment to craftsmanship and systematic structured approaches. However, it is also said that these characteristics, while being their strengths, often lead to a focus on incremental gains rather than disruptive innovation. There is a significant emphasis on stability and risk-averse mindset, which can make adapting to digital transformation more challenging. The hierarchical structure, known for supporting efficiency and precision, is often considered as a bottleneck when rapid change or innovation is needed. Through today's discussion, I gained valuable insight into the key points Japanese companies must embrace to drive future growth. First, to address the customer challenges, it is important to enhance our current capabilities, particularly in manufacturing. Second, the criticality of not only a robust procurement system, but also fostering the consumption ecosystem for solving customer issues. Third, how to interact with tech giants in accordance with the stage of business development. And lastly, the importance for traditional companies to learn from disruptive innovation introduced by tech giants. Thank you very much, Fonzu-san, for sharing your invaluable insight with us. Your perspectives on leveraging ecosystems managing frenemies, and bouncing back from disruption have offered us crucial guidance. Japanese traditional companies must leverage their inherent strengths while adapting to the new digital realities. And today's discussion has illuminated a path forward. Thank you for once again for your time and wisdom. And thanks to all participants for an engaging dialogue. 本庄さん、before we conclude, would you like to share any final thoughts or advice for our Japanese audience?
Thank you so much, Yamaguchi-san, for this great opportunity to share the insights from the book. And I think this book, just as you said, is extremely relevant to Japanese companies because many of Japanese companies have been around for decades or for hundreds of years, right? And they have accumulated lots of core competencies, competitive advantages, right? So in the digital age, it will be a missed opportunity if you don't unleash that potential, right? So I'm very much kind of looking forward to seeing the impact of this book on many businesses in Japan, and certainly look forward to seeing the Japanese version of the book in press in March 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.